What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today we're going to talk to you about Palantir. I want to go over some of the data points, what's been coming out associated to the company itself, and why today might get very, very volatile. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off, it is slightly turning red right now. Did have a high of 67.88, so a new 52-week high for Palantir, so congratulations for that. But like I said, right now it is pulling back. Nothing to do with Palantir nor the broader market, rather than just more of a psychological restraint. And what I mean by that is the S&P right now is at 5,900. It did have a high, as you can kind of see, of just over 6,000. 6,000 is a very big psychological kind of pivot for the broader market, same as what happened at 5,500. And for whatever reason, when it did hit 5,500 for the first time, it had a significant sell-off. So in my opinion, I think it's just more of a realization, the fact that how high the markets actually ran up, because it looks like there's a ceasefire in the Middle East, of course. So generally that's a good thing. Nothing really negative coming out as of right now. Some analysts somewhat cautious about PCE coming out on Wednesday, but it is just more of a kind of fake pullback, if that kind of makes sense. So I'm going to go over the technicals and stuff like that, but today is the last day it does trade on the New York Stock Exchange. So they will be moving effective tomorrow to the NASDAQ. So what does that mean? So in theory, you would have a lot more liquidity, obviously big money buying Palantir because of its kind of inclusion now on the NASDAQ. But when this was announced on November the 14th, there was a abnormal amount of volume. So in my opinion, I think that majority of the buying has already concluded. Of course, I'm sure there might be some ETFs that have some physical restraints that they can't actually buy it until it's actually moved over. So you might see some volatility associated to that. But that's something to just be aware of going forward tomorrow onwards. Ticker doesn't change whatsoever, so I think majority of individuals won't really even realize, but you should see going forward a little bit more higher volume. So I want to go over the things that you need to know, but starting off with this. So moving over to IBKR, technicals as of right now, you're showing some signs of a little bit more of weakness. And so this is in the short term, of course. So some points to watch for: 64.53 and then 65.34. I'll go over some fib levels later in the video, but generally looking at the 1-year chart, this is epic stuff. And plus, on a positive note, you do actually have stochastic RSI oversold. So essentially, after all this fake pullback, you could see a secondary push higher. There was 2 new ratings that did come out. In my last video, I said that it's interesting that we haven't heard from Daniel Ives, which in my opinion is kind of the cheerleader and poster boy for Palantir. But finally, we did hear from them, as well as obviously the Bank of America analyst, Mariana, who does have a 79% success rating. Daniel Ives has a 55. Both did give a $75 price target. So it's kind of weird, both on the same day, both buy rating. But nonetheless, that's what really prompted, in my opinion, the 52-week high to be hit. Aside from that, though, last one was done 7 days ago, and that was a $28 sell by Jefferies. Brent, who has a 58% success rating, has a consensus $38.73 is that price target, and that does represent a 40% downside. Moving over to IBKR, so far the Elliott Wave technicals have been fairly accurate. So right now it is projecting for it to be between that 70 and 73.50 range. So still a lot more upside to go, in my opinion. Options activity is kind of signaling this exact thing. So let me know your thoughts on the new analyst ratings. Was that anticipated, or do you think it's a little bit higher than what would have been normal, if that makes sense? But aside from that, shorts are returning 721,000 shares. Just so you're aware, I'm just bringing this up more for analysis purposes. It's definitely not a squeeze play, but 3.15% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 65.98 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average, so that's kind of the average of all of the brokers, is negative. So there is multiple different brokers out there trying to drum up business by getting people to pretty much pay people to short Palantir. So kind of messed up if you think about it. Normally, I cover quite a few different stocks, a lot of different YouTube channels, and you see cost to borrow minimum negative, so meaning one broker typically, but not the average. So this one, kind of an interesting scenario. But then again, anyone shorting Palantir right now is going to be losing their ass, in my opinion, of course. And plus, they have been losing their asses over the last little bit. So just based on the amount of dollar value for shorts, they've lost an estimated about 2.3-ish billion over the last 3 months. So yeah, definitely it's fun stuff. Aside from that though, looking at options, 133 million in calls, 31 million in puts. 45% of all the options being done so far today are bearish, and of the call options that are being purchased, the consensus for it to be above that $70 range, so mimicking pretty much that Elliott wave technicals as I pointed out. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub roughly $60. So a little bit more upside is anticipated. These are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So over the last hour and a half, this is where you've seen a lot of selling. So kind of just aiding in the broader market pulling back. But aside from that, a lot of transactions. So it goes to show that Palantir is still on a lot of entities' radar. And this is a lot of the transactions kind of pushing it to that new 52-week high. So as of right now, with it at 64 and change, it is trading between this R1 and the pivot. So 62.70 is going to be that next strong support. 65.02 is going to be the next strong kind of target / resistance. So we'll see if it does, if the market's able to kind of regain and push higher and trade within here. But just take note of some of the strong kind of resistance points. So 68.77, 66.45, and then 65.02. So what is your viewpoint on Palantir? Have you been buying? Have you been selling? Have you been doing options? A lot of money is getting in through Palantir, through options. As a result of that, volatility is very high. So that does mean that the market makers are anticipating for big swings, and more specifically based on everything, more upside. So yeah, I think there's a lot of bullish data points right now surrounding Palantir, so there might be higher highs coming. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And then one final thing, I did launch a Patreon where I'm giving buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Been hitting massive home runs, so pop over there to take a look. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.